everybody and welcome to this playthrough for the Rookie Division in the Mountain Tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so let's go! First shot here, we're going to play this one just as it is. We're not going to add anything for elevation. Max topspin as we do have on the Extra Mile level 4. And you can see me in this playthrough playing with very low leveled clubs. And that is per request from players out there playing in the Rookie Division that feels like playing with Extra level 5, 6, 7 is going to be too high, and also with other wood clubs and long irons, short irons, etc. So, let's see this here. Have in mind here that we do want to bounce before the bunker, and we do want to bounce as much on the right side as possible here. If you do have, let's say, a more upgraded driver, you can take a power 3 ball and you can drive yourself over the bunker directly. But the normal way to play it is to bounce before the bunker or just on the side of the bunker, on the left side of the bunker there. The problem you have is that you can see maybe on the screen here that it slopes down to the right if we bounce on the right. That is why we're using curl, and also that we would be using max side spin if we would be having a side spin on our ball. Also, for the fairway after the bunker, it slopes massively down to the left, so it's possible to use that one to gain a little bit more yards and also put ourselves into a good spot. So, second shot here, now we can go with 3 ways. We can, number 1, we can dunk it. Number 2, we can go with the first bounce on the green together with backspin to go directly at the pin. Then the third way is to go and use the back of the pin, using 3 to 5 bars of backspin, getting the ball to the top of the green to make it fall back down towards the pin for a possible eagle. I would choose alternative number 2 if I would be having enough backspin to be able to have one single bounce on the green towards the pin. If I'm not having that, then I'm going to go for the back of the green to make the green do the work. And the worst case scenario, if we hit the grade like we're doing here, then we're going to miss on either right or left side. And then last scenario, we're going to go for the dunk. Before we put it in, do not forget to check down in the video description for direct timestamps for the hole in this playthrough. So we're going to go to hole number 2 here now. And again, this is going to be a course that we can, if we do have like crosswind or tailwind, then I would suggest that you pull out a power 3 ball using a slight amount of overpower with the amount of topspin you have to bounce over the rough and the sand on top there. I'm going to try to lay up as close to the rough on the top as possible. I do suggest that you play this shot with a quarterback or with another club that do give you a good accuracy and also a good ball guideline. The only thing here that I would change when it comes to the ball is that I would love to play with a power 3 ball. Why? The reason I would love to play with a power 3 ball instead of a Marlin that we're having here, which is a power 0 ball, that is that the second shot is going to be needed to have distance if we need to lay up close to the rough as we did now. If we do have headwind, I will never try, especially with those up level of the clubs that we have, I would never try to get myself to bounce over the rough and the sand, because the risk of getting into the rough or the sand is going to be very possible, and then we are not going to be able to reach for the green in 2 no matter what. Second shot, I would prefer to use a club with as much power as possible, but when only having the Viper level 5 on this account, then this is the shot I will have to do. I would love to play just over the rough there, 2 bars of top spin, max side spin, and also you can see 75% of the curl to the left. Now we hit it great on the right side because we had to overpower it and we're going to miss right, but it's not going to be that hard for us to make this wedge here, because the wedge is pretty simple, if I would say like that, from the right side of the pin. You could also see that the fairway slopes down to the right, so if you're coming in too much to the right, you're going to danger the rough on the right side. So you can do a different approach as well if you would be having more topspin. The Viper level 5 doesn't have that much topspin, which in that case would needs us to go over the rough there, have to use overpower if we would be having like a big dog, which should be the ultimate club here for that second shot, is that we would be playing before the rough and bounce with the 4 to 5 bars of topspin, then we could bounce it up towards the green instead. With tailwind, we go full blast and we try to gain as much distance. We have a rough, short iron or a long iron towards the pin. So, hole number 3. It's the first par 3. And this one I'm going to play with the Goliath. The reason I'm playing with the Goliath is that I'm more familiar with the Goliath. The backbone is definitely a possible club to play with, but if playing with a backbone and a basic ball or a marlin, then you're most likely going to be in between clubs if the wind is going to be in the wrong direction. So you can wait towards the tournament starting to see which club you're going to choose. But if you do want to stay away from being in between clubs, I would be going with the Goliath every single time, especially if you're going to play with a power 1 or a power 0 ball. I'm going to add 10% extra for the adjustment here, even if it doesn't look like we're playing that much downhill, but it is affected more by the wind when playing this shot. I'm used 2.5 bar backspin. I would go with 1.5 bar backspin instead, so we're not getting short. The worst part there is to be completely straight on target, but we go short in line. That you maybe could remember from playing regular golf, even though I'm terrible at it. But it's very tough to be. It's very sad to be right on target but short on the line. So, and you can see here we're using the yellow ring as a reference to be having the right side of the yellow ring almost close to the rough. Now our opponent is using a club that is very much upgraded, so it's not that easy to take that as a good reference. But we do want, as the ball to react, we do want the first bounce to be as we had before the rough and the sand, and then we bounce over and have the second bounce on the fringe. Then we're going to use the downhill slope, as you can see here, to fall down towards the pin. So let's go to hole number 4. And hole number 4, we're going to play with a basic ball again, extra mile level 5. And now we're going to play on the right side. I know there is plenty that is trying to go on the left side. So the question is, why do I play on the right side, even if we're having more, even if that gives us a longer shot towards the pin? That is because if we just slightly miss our drive going to the left, then we're going to danger being in the sand or in the rough. And that is going to make it impossible for us to reach for the green in 2. Now I'm using max topspin that I do have on my club. I do not suggest to use more than 5 bars of topspin because we don't want to overuse the topspin and go into the rough on the top here as it is possible to do. So we're just going to lay it up, and we are going to use, as you can see, the shadow. That shadow that our opponent is now, we're going to use the beginning of that shadow as our starting point with the landing position with max topspin. Then we know we're going to be accurate. On this shot, I'm not adding anything for elevation, but if I do have some crosswind that would be maybe 4 or 5 miles per hour, then I would go with 1 bar of side spin on the ball that I'm using to the opposite direction to just counter for the bounce that we're going to get when having crosswind. So now for the second shot, you can see I'm having the big dog. So why do I choose to play with the big dog here? The reason I play with the big dog is because I don't want to put myself in danger if I for some reason go short with my drive. Then sniper level 3, 4 is going to be with such a low amount of distance that it's going to have to be overpower some of the cases, and that's the same with the Guardian. So I'm going to get playing with the big dog, so I do get myself in a position where I can reach over without having to overpower. Max backspin. I'm going to want to have the second bounce to just be before the fringe, but the backspin I'm having is a little bit too low in my opinion. I would like to have 1 bar backspin more, so going with 3 to 4 bars of backspin would be the ultimate situation. But again, we always need to choose clubs that we do have that is, you know, that is in we need to choose the clubs that we have to choose between. So if we're not having all of the stats that we do want, then we need to play with a club that has the similar ones. And I do value power and distance more than I would value having 1 bar of backspin more on this particular shot. So let's go to hole number 5, and hole number 5 is going to be a par 5 as well, a very tough par 5, and we can play this one in 2 ways in my opinion. Our opponent here is going to play left side. I'm going to play right side. And I do believe when playing from the front tee here, which is the rookie division again, is that you need to play with clubs with distance. It is also very hard to estimate and judge on with the less ball guideline that we do have on our drivers to get as close to the top there as possible. Of course, with a Thoris Hammer level 6, as my opponent has, it's going to be easier. But to be able to play on the left side in the way that I would like us to do, then we need to gain more yards than we did there. We need to be more closer to the rough. If we don't feel comfortable doing so, and we feel more comfortable playing just as we have 4.5 bars of topspin, and we play straight forward here with a basic ball, then the right side is going to be a possibility for us. The problem with the right side is that the fairway on top there is very tiny. So if we miss it slightly, then we're going to danger be in the rough, and then it's game over to be able to get the eagle for us, in my opinion. I would choose, if I would change anything here, then I would change to play with a power 3 ball. I know that we can play this one with a basic ball. That is why I'm also using that in this example, so I can show you that it is possible to play without using any form of special ball or a ball that you need to buy. So our opponent here is going to play straight forward, and I don't blame him for doing so because he doesn't have that many options. With the sniper level 9 does have 170 yards, and we are not going to have a sniper in level 9 if we're playing rookie. So we're going to most likely have a sniper level 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is going to not have enough distance without having to overpower more. And this is a position that we don't want to end up with. So the suggestion I have, we're going to play left, is that we're going to rough bump it between the trees on the top left. On the top left there, we're going to bounce in between those trees with as much topspin we have to bounce out on the fairway. But then we do need to have a wood club with distance, which the big dog has. So the big dog is the club that I would suggest to play for the second shot if I do have it unlocked. Otherwise the horizon would be a possibility. Now we don't have any side spin on the big dog on the ball, so I had to go with curl. With side spin, I need to go with just some slight curl if I'm going to make this second shot here from the right side in an accurate way. And we do want to just play diagonally, and you're going to see so many of your opponents that are going to try to just go straight forward because they believe that the closer you are to the green, the easier it's going to be to get to the green. But this is, of course, where we need to think. You can see here with the trees in the way, even though our opponent has gained more distance after 2 shots than we have after our 2 shots, but our opponent can't reach for the green without having to slice his shot. And that is going to be something that we don't want to end up with. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation where we have to slice to even get either here on the fairway, because this is an excellent shot from that position, or get to the green with having to slice our shot. So then we need to find another way. So by playing that shot and very conservative and in a good way for us, we have a shot towards the pin directly. Still having the big dog for the second shot. Again, we do want to have the distance. Max backspin, which is 2.5 bar. Now I'm not having any side spin, so I'm using curl instead. So the thing that I do want to go for here is not to go straight at the pin, is to actually go after the pin, use the slope that we have on the back to fall back down. To use it in a ultimate way, we need to reach further up when it comes to the green there. So, of course, where we need to think a lot, but really pay attention to what I'm saying there. Sometimes it's not going to be the best to gain the most distance with a shot. Sometimes it's going to be the best to just play the course. So, hole number 6 now, a par 3. Now we're going to play without backspin, without topspin, without side spin, and we can play with whatever ball we would like. I like to play with the Goliath because I prefer the Goliath. We're going to aim having our ball guide line 2 squares on the right side of the pin, and want to have the second bounce to bounce just after the fringe on the top. The thing this green is kind of famous for is that you could gain so many hole-in-ones on this one, because the green is, if you hit it just right and if you hit it perfect, we did hit it great, then you're going to get the ball to just follow the green down towards the pin. And That is sometimes going to be a bit unfair if if an opponent even hit great but still hit the right spot on the green, is going to roll down towards the pin and potentially make an hole-in-one. So this is going to be a course in the tournament that we need to be focused on hitting it perfect, because that is definitely going to be a possible hole-in-one for us. So we don't need to use any backspin whatsoever. We're just going to play it as it is. That is important. If using the backspin as our opponent is doing here, then we're going to go short and the ball is going to stay there on the top. So that was hole number 6, everyone, and we're going to go to hole number 7. 3 more holes to go. 1 par 4, 1 par 3, and 1 par 5. As normal, really. And now we're going to play this one, and this is a course that has been also here for a very long time. And sure, we could try to go over the water, but no, I wouldn't suggest that. You can just see here now that our opponent is trying to do something that he might not know what he's doing. So the thing that we're going to do is to not try to go over there. We are going to lay up either short, or we're going to try to gain as much distance on this first piece of fairway as possible. From this distance here, if you're not having a power 3 ball like our opponent is having, then it's going to be a tough shot to get towards the pin in 1. So I'm going to play with a quasar here, which is a power 1 ball, but also with the side spin is the one that we want to go with. I'm having the Viper here, and Viper level 6 doesn't have that much backspin. I would love to have a wood club with more backspin, like the Guardian or something like that, so we can aim a little bit further ahead to not endangering the rough. We're going to play 2 rings for 3.8 here with the Viper. I'm going to add 10% extra to this shot, because this is a hole where the ball is going to be affected more by the wind, because we're playing it slightly downhill. So we get to the point where we want to, and the reason I'm playing short and conservative is that this is going to be the best shot for us to make an eagle from distance. The other way to play, that not the opponent's way to play, but the other way we could play is to go as far on the fairway as possible on the first piece of fairway that we are, to get to the top, to go for a backspin approach with the thorn as a short iron. The problem with that is that you most likely won't be having the thorn upgraded in level 6, 7, 8, or maybe even not even level 5. And then even with a power 3 ball, the distance is going to be a problem, and especially if we go just a little bit short and you're going to be in between clubs, and then that shot is going to be trickier. So we're going to play on the left side, and here is also where we would love to have 1 to 2 bars more backspin than we're having on our club. I'm going to play this one in minimum distance of our club, but you can see that we are going to be in between clubs, and in that case going to have to underpower the shot a little bit. But you can see the thing that I want to come to here is that I'm using the left side, using as much side spin to the right to stay away as much from the water as possible, and also from the rough. And with a perfect shot and with 1 bar more backspin, then that shot is definitely going to be closer than it was there, and it's definitely going to be a possible hole out for us, an eagle there. So now we're going to play hole number 8, and this is a course that I have made so many hole-in-ones on, and I believe that if you have played this hole before, you know that it is a possible hole-in-one. We do want to aim straight at the cup. Now you can see we're actually aiming a little bit to the left side of the cup. 1.5 bar backspin. We don't have to use any side spin, but 1.5 bar backspin is very important to have with you there. 1.3 rings. And the thing that we want to do here is that we do want to add 10% extra to our shot from the distance we are with our club. And the thing that I do instead, which I think is a very easy reference to go with, is that from that distance, to not have to mixture with elevation and stuff like that, I play my club in max range. I play my club with max distance number, even though I'm not in max distance of my club. And that is helping me out to be spot on with doing that rough bump. And yes, it is a little bit of an aggressive way, but that shot you can play with whatever wood club you might have. You can even play that with a beginner wood club if so. And the key, 1.5 bar backspin and 10% extra is used here from front tee. When we play from second tee or third tee, is going to be 20% extra. So that is why I want to be very focused on that one. So let's go with hole number 9. Last but not least, the really tough par 5 here, especially for us that are playing from the front tee. And here, our opponent is going to play with a basic ball. I'm going to play with a basic ball. The thing that I would prefer for you to use is to only use 2 bars of topspin, like our opponent is doing, and you're going to see us doing that as well. Using more topspin is going to danger being in the rough or the sand on, like if you bounce over the water, and then you're going to roll into the rough or into the sand if you do have more topspin. You can see here that with only 2 bars of topspin, we're getting it fairly close anyway. So for our shot now, I'm going to also apply a little bit of curl. We don't have much, but 2 bars of topspin, and that this is also a course where I want to show with a basic ball that it's possible to gain an eagle on this par 5, but I would definitely prefer that if I do have some titans, then I would definitely pick one titan for this one to help myself out with both side spin, but especially distance for my second shot. We are bouncing over the rough here and doing a decent shot, and from this position here we're going to have a long way towards the pin, and now we need to use a club with a lot of distance. I want you to think away all type of thoughts of trying to drop this one for an albatross. That would, in many of the cases, make you push it too hard, and you're going to get into the rough or into the sand and have a very tough one to make an eagle. So the thing that we want to focus on is that our opponent is making really good, but also something that we are going to focus on is to lay up in some way to either for a long putt like this one, or we do want to have a short wedge on either from the fringe or just by the fringe. Now you can see having a basic ball here is not an advantage over players that have a power 3 ball or even a power 2 or a power 1 ball. So I would really prefer to and suggest that you play with a power 3 ball on this particular course, and again, not so much for the drive, but for the second shot, so we don't have to risk going max overpower. But you can see it's definitely possible to make it, but having to use less overpower or even use overpower at all is definitely going to be very much easier for us there. So we're adding 10% extra for the drive, important to say, because we're playing that one downhill. You can see that with the visual as well when we went in to make that drive. Now we're close to the pin, and we're going to either just make the ball roll towards the pin or we're going to dunk it. I'm going to dunk it because I feel confident doing so. If you don't feel confident doing so, then you can use the ball guideline that you do have on your wedge and just let it roll towards the pin. Thanks a lot for watching this playthrough here. Have in mind as well that this is a playthrough with various wind. It's not going to display the win that we do have in the tournament because no one knows until the tournament starts on Monday. So have that in mind. There will be a new playthrough out for Rookie Division on the Monday when the tournament starts for the Mountain Tournament. And then I'm going to be more point out specific things with if we're having tailwind, crosswind, headwind, etc. But this is a general playthrough that's going to help you big time by knowing and getting a wider understanding of the course that we're going to play, so you can start practice. Unfortunately, we cannot practice all of the holes in the regular tour game, so some of the recordings here is old recordings that has a new voiceover. The only courses you can practice in game from front tee is the ones for Sakura Hills. So it's only 3 courses you can practice, so really watch the hole guides, watch the playthrough, ask questions so you do get prepared. Also, you can sign up for the text guides. You can already get them on Thursday, the week before the tournament, so you get them before everyone else. That is through patreon.com/golf/Tommy, link in the video description down below. This video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Thanks a lot for watching and good luck in the mountain tournament.